Hello and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Janice B Gordon. I'm the co-president of the Professional Speakers Association Southeast and a visiting fellow of Cranfield School of Management, consulting and training in key account management. Now, as a professional speaker, I speak about scaling your sales, but I'm here to talk up close and personal with Dr Lynda Shaw. Hello and welcome.
Hi, Janice.
Hello. So Lynda is a cognitive neuroscientist and a business psychologist. She works with senior leaders and their teams to help them better understand emotional responses of clients and colleagues and to harness the power to improve business culture and turn fear and stress into profit and loyalty. So welcome, Lynda.
Thank you, Janice.
So, Lynda, what's the one thing from your early life that has really impacted you, or something you always take with you?
Oh gosh, that's a really big question. I'm a product of a very loving family and a very naughty, humorous family. My granddad especially was a huge influence on me. He used to do things like, if my grandmother had fallen asleep in the chair, she would have her glasses on. So he would quietly stick stamps on her glasses. He's doing this. As a child, I'm like, I'm desperate for her to wake up. Or he would do things like, I don't know, paint her nails or something with a strange colour or all sorts of.
Sounds like great fun.
I've always taken with me that there are some extremely serious things in the world that we have to contend with, but the majority of the time, actually, we can find humour in things, and that does alleviate an awful lot of stress. So I think if I was to take one thing from my childhood and my early years, it's humour. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, that's good. And you certainly need it more nowadays, I think, because we're often in very stressful situations. So what started you on the path to study psychology and social anthropology?
Well, I'm a travel junkie. I love getting on an aeroplane as much as I can. And the reason I do that is because I've always wanted to understand or try to understand why people do what they do. So I find myself in all sorts of strange places in the world, just walking around, watching people. I observe people an awful lot. So I decided, once I knew what anthropology meant, which I decided I wanted to study anthropology. But my children were small, so I had to choose a university that was close to home. For obvious reasons, logistics schools run around and all that stuff. So I applied to local universities, and the only way I could study social anthropology was through studying another topic with it. So I had to do a joint honours degree. So I decided to go with psychology. Didn't want to study psychology at all, just wanted to study anthropology. So about two-thirds of the way through the course, I realised how hard social anthropology is. It's ridiculously hard. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. So if you're a yes but person or a what if person, you drive yourself insane, because that's how I was when I tried to write a 2,000 word essay and it turned into 20,000 words, and I would spend many nights to get pruning the words back. So I found psychology easier. So I then got my first degree, and I decided I wanted to do a master's in psychology, which I did. And whilst I was doing that, my supervisor, I looked at his profile on the university website, and it looked at the very bottom. It said his hobby, and trust me, this man doesn't do hobbies. He actually is brilliant at everything he does. But one of his hobbies is consciousness. Now, I've been reading about consciousness since I was 14, and I absolutely love the subject. I got really, really excited. I went running into his office and said, "Would you supervise a PhD for me?" And he said, "Yes, I would." So there you go. Here you have it. That's my pathway. But there is also another catalytic moment. Is that the year before I went to university as a mature student, my father died. He died suddenly, and he always used to say to me, "Lynda, if you want to ever go anywhere spiritual in the world, or you want to really discover some excellent things, go to the Himalayas." And it was just after Dad died that I had the chance of going to the Himalayas, and so I went, and it blew me away. So much so that when I got back, I was away with the fairies. I was looking at candlelight all day. I was watching firelight. I was staring out of the window. And I was, for 3 months, I just didn't want to be back in the UK. I wanted to be back up in the mountains. And it was only when I shook myself out of it, because I'm still an only child of a widowed mother. I'm still a mother of children. I'm still a wife. I'm still all these people. And I was really not being a very nice person to any of them. So that's when I started to think about studying and ground myself and understanding why people do what they do. So there you go. It was a strange, convoluting path, but it's been a wonderful path.
That's interesting, your reaction, how you almost kind of checked out, in that, you wanted to be in another space. I would, like you, I lost someone, my younger brother suddenly, and I really understand a lot more about how people can check out of life, and I think it's a lot easier to do than, when we're rushing around. I actually think anyone can do that and not realize that they're doing that, and you have to really bring yourself back from the brink. So do you think that actually it wasn't just the Himalayas, but it was actually probably some of the dealing with some of the grief as well?
Well, yeah, absolutely, definitely. It was a shock. My father was a very powerful man and very strong, physically strong. Nobody expected him to die, and he just closed his eyes and went, and that was that quick. So it was a massive shock to everybody in the family. And so, yeah, I mean, any kind of bereavement of somebody you love and is close to you, I think makes you think very deeply about the futility of a lot of the stuff we do and the stuff we worry about. Sadly, we don't hold on to that. Not in the grief. I'm not saying we should hold on to grief. I don't mean that by any means. But I mean the lessons that you get from grief. We tend to forget them and still run around like headless chickens once we got over the bereavement.
I think it's something we need to talk a lot more about, because, when you were talking, I was thinking actually grief holds on to you. Because you don't want it, you want the person, but you don't want the grief. And there are so many lessons, and I think we really do need to talk about it a lot more, and just investigate the real insight, because it's part of life. And because it's part of life, then actually we're all meant to feel it and go through that journey. So there must be, I believe them, we're always meant to be where we are at any moment in time, because there's something you need to do, you need to learn, it needs to shock you onto another path, whatever it may be. So there's real insight. And unless you go through that path, you don't get to the gold at the end of it. So, I would agree that I think we need to, talk about it a lot more.
I think the problem is that people are afraid of being embarrassed. So when you're meeting somebody who's just lost somebody they love dearly, you don't know what to say, and therefore a lot of people avoid you. I mean, we have a little boy in our family who died when he was 8. The mother wanted to talk about it, the father didn't. And what the mother found very hard, well, she found everything very hard, but one of the things she found hard was people actually crossed the road rather than speak to her because they didn't know what to say, and that's incredibly hurtful. So if you've got somebody who has lost somebody and you don't know what to say, then don't say anything. Just say, I honestly don't know what to say, and just sit and hold their hand or whatever.
Yeah, and give them a hug. Because human contact is a real healer.
Huge.
Yeah.
For everything. The studies now show that social interaction is up there amongst the top 3 when it comes to a healthy mind and a healthy body and longevity.
Yeah, absolutely. So I met you through the PSA, the Professional Speakers Association. So I'm interested to find out. I've got a bit of echo here. Let me turn it down. I'm interested to actually find out what are the benefits that you've received from the Speakers Association.
It's strange. First of all, I think to be a speaker is quite a lonely existence. And I feel being a member of the PSA and going to the regional meetings is phenomenally useful in terms of you feeling you belong. And let's face it, we as speakers are all a bit old, aren't we? It's a strange profession. It's really strange. So you get an awful lot of these incredibly creative, autonomous people who are delicious in their different ways of seeing things. And it's good to plug into that because you realise that not being normal is normal. So I think being part of the tribe is a huge thing for me. Absolutely huge. And when you go to the meetings and you listen to all these fantastic speakers, I make copious notes, absolutely huge amount of notes. I never look at them again, but it helps me absorb the information by the act of writing. But equally, you seem to learn by osmosis. You sort of soak this stuff up of what people are doing, that, and you don't even realize you're not trying to emulate anyone. You want to be yourself, but you sort of unconsciously cherry pick bits that might suit you. And you go, ooh, I could do it that way, or I could do it that way, but I might tweak it this way. You're not even aware of it, you just try it. So I think belonging to the PSA is phenomenal. So for me, it's been part of being part of this magnificent tribe, and also you learn so much.
Yeah. We had the Association Southeast on Tuesday, and but I spoke to you afterwards, didn't I? It was just mind-bogglingly good. We had Frank Finesse and Julie Holmes. But the energy in the room, the amount of insight and knowledge and sharing, the 3-4 hours wasn't long enough. It was such a great atmosphere, and everyone said how much they loved it. So I agree, it's a lot about community. You can ask anyone anything and get real insight as to how you can grow your business by learning from and modelling other people. So it's great. I'm interested in your subject area, the brain. And, I've downloaded your How to Retain Your Brain. My dad is a little concerned because some of his siblings have passed and had dementia. And so I thought it would be really good for him, but I think it's good for everybody. But I'm interested in what it is that why it is that the brain controls so much of our quality of life.
The brain is the most complex biological mechanism in the known universe. We don't know, I can't even measure it. Neuroscience is an embryonic science. It's brand new in science speak. So there's a huge amount that we don't understand about the brain. But the brain is, in its complexities, we're beginning to unravel. So it controls everything. But I have to say there is a caveat to that. We are not just blobs of biology and chemicals. We're also products of our environmental and our social upbringing. So maybe that's the anthropologist in me, I don't know. But in actual fact, we are our experiences. We are the knowledge that we've got because of who's influenced us over the years. We are all of those things. We're not just chemicals and biology. So yes, the brain is boss. There's no doubt about it. And there's a lot about the brain that we can actually control. Not everything, not by any means, and we wouldn't want to, because a lot of it goes on subconsciously, or their responses and reactions and things like that, which keep us safe. But nevertheless, what I'm very keen to do with the brain is help people feel a modicum of control so that they feel less stressed out, they feel less anxious, and they, especially when it comes to illness, both mentally and mentally, a sense of control. They handle things much better. So that's one.
I see. Now, I'd like to ask a bit more about your book. So just to continue on this subject a little bit. Now, why does neuroscience support the idea that it's better to receive? And why is it that we feel we can conquer the world when we feel so good?
Okay, there's two questions. The first question is, why do we feel better when we give, when we're altruistic? When we put the brain in a pleasurable state, we're the most effective and efficient we can be, which is when we feel we can conquer the world. Now, one of the ways of putting the brain in a pleasurable state is through having a glass of wine with a mate around the kitchen table, watching the rain fall, listen to your baby laugh or something like that. Those things put the brain in a pleasurable state. But one of the most efficient ways of doing that is through kindness, generosity, and altruism. When we do something for someone else without expecting anything in return. And what happens is we're actually putting all of the neurochemicals in our brain in an optimum state. Things like the one you must have heard of, dopamine, serotonin, all those feel-good factors, all those feel-good neurotransmitters are firing very well. There is also another chemical called nitric oxide, which is actually, it's a neurogas, and it permeates the blood vessels really, really, really fast. And that affects the whole body. Now, when we are kind, generous and altruistic, we actually stimulate nitric oxide as well as other things. And what nitric oxide does, it helps the neurotransmitters, the good ones, do their job. And it also helps suppresses cortisol, the stress hormone. So it's all these good things happening. So when we do what we know we should be doing as a human being, then we put the brain in an optimum state, and then we're firing on all four cylinders, and then we feel that we can conquer the world. And we do. We do a really good job.
In my TEDx talk, I talked about the subconscious and really opening up the channels because it's so powerful, and I meditate every morning. So I'm sure you can give us some ways of actually opening up those channels.
My father used to say, you always need to have a quiet time every day. And when he was at school, he even taught breathing exercises as a daily routine in his class. Sadly, we've stopped doing that, but you've noticed schools are turning back round. They're starting to use mindfulness in lessons and things like that. So if you're wanting to help yourself, breathing exercises, meditation, mindfulness, all of those things are shown definitely to help, very much so. There's a huge amount of studies with Tibetan monks, and also nuns, when they're praying, when they're focusing on their meditations, when they're chanting, all of those things. And it shows that their brain is actually much stronger in certain ways. I believe there is some research that shows that the corpus callosum is thicker, which is the bundle of nerves between the two hemispheres when we meditate a lot. So, yeah, neuroscience does support the efficacy of meditation and deep breathing exercises.
Excellent. So what about creative thinking, insight and influence? I know that you've got some great help us to build relationships and create fun in our communication that builds trust. What are they?
That's what we know in our heart. You know, neuroscience supports what actually we know deep down. It's the way we build relationships, the way we build trust is actually to be trustworthy. So if we are trustworthy, we will be trusted and we will trust others, and you get this amazing feedback loop. The more we're trusted, the more we will trust others. The more we trust others, they will trust us, and so on and so forth. So you start by being trustworthy, but being a decent human being and communicating properly. You know, being interested, really, really interested in what people have to say. Not just give it lip service, being really interested. There's something, Janice, if you said to me, and bearing in mind my speciality is emotion and consciousness, if you said to me one word that everybody on this planet wants to feel, what do you think that is?
One word that everybody
on this planet wants to feel. What do you think it is?
Love. No? Connection? What is it?
Okay, significant. Everybody wants to feel significant. That you're heard and that you're listened to properly. Doesn't matter how old you are, what your background is, you actually want to feel a significant human being that you're worth perhaps listening to. So if you are giving somebody your time to sit down and talk with them, find out about them, because everybody's interesting. Everybody's got so many stories to tell, even if they think they haven't. You actually ask the right questions and they will tell you. If you help that person tell you that stuff by the way you ask them questions, you will help them feel significant. And if you help them feel significant, they will trust you and you can trust back, and you will have a very good relationship going.
Excellent. I think I'm going to offline ask you more about significance, because I really like that. It's International Women's Day. Yeah, exactly. You know, I woke up this morning and I had a real feeling of gratitude. And calm, and I just feel we're on the cusp where things may change. For a long time, I felt that, you know, like it's not going to change. I'm in support of the quota, and, you know, I just think 200 years for us to get equality, all of this it's just not good enough. So I'm a little bit, not so much militant, but focused, let's say, on change, because I think we have a responsibility to the younger women coming up. We cannot just kind of sit on our laurels and wait for it to happen. You know, the suffragettes, we've got to go out and we've got to get it and we've got to make it happen. And we've asked for forgiveness. That's what we need to do, and not ask for permission. And we need to be seen to be doing that for the other generation. So I'm really, really positive about some of the things that have moved and shifted globally. And so tell us, is there a difference between male and female brains?
I have avoided that subject for years. Absolutely years. It's fraught with danger. Fraught because we're talking stereotypes. It's fraught because you've got to be careful that you're not setting things in stone, which might be shown not to be correct when new research comes out. However, I will answer your question. Some research shows that there are very, very minute differences in the stereotypical male and female brain. Minute. We are not sure whether they necessarily match behaviour, but in actual fact, that there are small anatomical differences. For instance, a man has a stereotypical male brain, has a larger amygdala, which is about it's about fear, but it's also about controlling things. It's all about social interactions, about sexual behaviour as well. So men have got a larger amygdala. Women apparently got a larger limbic system, which is about emotion, which may mean we're more emotional, but it also means we're more prone to depression. There are some other small areas, but there again, I've got to go back to this thing that we are products of our environmental and social upbringing, and now we know. And we've only recently known, relatively recently, in about 15 years or so, that the neuroplasticity of the brain is such that we change the anatomy of our brain and our behaviour depending on what's going on around us. So if you you're a male, you can actually be thinking in a feminine, stereotypical type way. And if you're a female, you can also be thinking in a stereotypically masculine type way. What I'm really, really keen about is that the gender bit is off the agenda, if you like. You know, each stereotypical gender has its strengths and weaknesses. And in different scenarios, we need to embrace those depending on what's needed at the time. Now, workplace these days, there is no physical strength needed. So in actual fact, there are very few differences between the efficacy of a male and female doing a job. So if this gender pay gap should not be happening, gender's irrelevant. Colour of skin is irrelevant. Sexual orientation is irrelevant. It's all irrelevant. Religion is irrelevant. If somebody is coming to the workplace and doing a good job, they should be rewarded for that good job, regardless of everything else. In fact, I've just done a documentary with Karen Brady from The Apprentice. It comes out in April. It's on the gender pay gap and unconscious bias. So that's interesting. It's a very hot topic at the moment. But I'm a mother. I've got a son and I've got a daughter and I've got a stepdaughter. And I'm very keen that I don't disadvantage either gender. I'm very keen that we see a strong workforce that works together, that don't even see that there's a gender difference. That's what I want to see when it comes to work.
I do think it's important to celebrate differences and have balance, and that's why we need to have both equality, men and women in the workplace, and not just men at more men at the leadership level. And then you actually have the best of everything. You really do have the best scenario, because, you know, I think not so much that the brains are different, because you're neurocollectors, you can actually learn, you know, teach your brain. You know, younger children now with technology, they're making new neuro pathways so they can do things a lot quicker because they're teaching their brain to do those things. So, you know, nevertheless, emotionally, physically, mentally, there are differences. My differences are because of my culture, and your difference because of your experiences. It's not just the brain, and we ought to celebrate that. I think the important thing is to have that balance, that mix in most situations in the workplace and socially, and then you get the best of both worlds. Do you agree with that?
Oh, completely. I mean, I love diversity. I love the fact that we can be all shapes and sizes and whatever backgrounds and still come together and work as a team. And everybody brings their strengths to the table. But it doesn't, I'm just very careful of labelling of any description. In some situations, labelling is actually very helpful. But in a lot of situations, people will hide behind that label and they become that label because they've been told they're that label. And that goes for absolutely everything. So gender is a label. Now, yes, of course, there are gender differences. We know that a woman can have a baby. We know that she was menstruated between 10 and 13 or something like that these days. I think it's even getting younger. Boys are slightly later with puberty. We know there are differences. And you're right, we need to celebrate those differences. We need to celebrate those strengths and embrace those strengths and develop those strengths. But nevertheless, it still boils down to, I think, one of the basic things we're still fighting in the 21st century is that two people can be doing the same job, and if they're a different gender, they will earn different pay. And that's not right.
Yeah. Well, things are moving. That's great. So, I'm going to ask you a few fire questions here. What is the one thing that you're most passionate about and why?
Oh, everything. Okay. I actually feel very strongly about control. I feel very strongly that because my work is about that, I feel very strongly that people, when they feel in control, they're healthier. And as I said, if things go very wrong and then you spiral out of control for a short while. But when we feel out of control for any length of time that we're susceptible to depression and anxiety disorders and so on and so forth. So I think trying to control our lives and having hope when things go wrong, I feel very strongly about.
Okay, so if you were on a desert island on your own, what would be the one thing you would have to have with you?
Oh, you really come up with them. I didn't even know, what would I want on a desert island? Water. Yes, you saw. I like water, drinking water. Yeah. Okay. And then the last one, what's the one thing you haven't done yet? Well, on my bucket list at the moment for this year is to go to Mongolia. I haven't been to Mongolia yet, so that's what I want to do. And I want to live in a yurt with a family for a few days and just help them do the chores that they do and just absorb what it's like a little bit. That's what I want to do. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, I think we talked a bit about space and checking out, and that's whether you're in Mongolia or whether you're in your own bedroom meditating and things, and how important that is for your general well-being. So I think that's a great way that we've brought it back round again. So good luck to your trip. I'm just not booked yet, so fingers crossed it happens. Now you've got it on film. You know you need to do it. It's done. You can hold me accountable right now. We're all holding you accountable. All right. Well, enjoy International Women's Day. Thank you very much for sharing your insight. I've learnt a lot.